Hey everybody, this is Keith Explosion. This is Q&A time. I'm going to start doing this regularly as long as I have questions. So if you got any questions and you want me to answer them, throw them up on the Facebook or on the website and I'll answer them. I would say my first video game memory is probably, I'd have to say, playing my uncle's Atari 2600. It was like summertime, we were real little. I was probably somewhere around the age 3, 4, somewhere in there. And I was hanging out with my cousin at my uncle's house, his dad, and he had set up a Atari 2600 that he had gotten from a friend in one of the bedrooms in his apartment or whatever. And me and my cousin were in there playing it. I remember we were playing Chopper Command. I remembered, I looked that up years later and found out what it was called. At the time I didn't know what it was called. But I remembered the image so well that I looked it up 20 years later on the internet. But yeah, Chopper Command, that was my first probably legitimate video game memory. I remember we were playing another game too. The screen was predominantly black and you went through the level. It was like a kind of a maze thing and there was these like little purple monsters. I think it was Berserk, I think is what it was actually. Not completely sure on that though. So yeah, that's my first video game memory. Chopper Command on 2600. My first favorite game, I guess, it's kind of a hard one. The first game I think I remember being just hardcore into was Legend of Zelda. I knew that game was coming out way before it came out, and that was back then. That was pre-Nintendo Power. I remember reading when you got your Nintendo Entertainment Center, you sent in a newsletter to become part of the Power Club or whatever, and they would send out a newsletter like every couple months or whatever it was, and you could, it would tell you about new stuff coming out and new things in the works and all that good kind of stuff. So I remember they had I can't remember the actual what it looked like, but I remember they had a pretty good amount of information on Legend of Zelda coming out, what it was, and how it was just this epic adventure game. And all I really knew of Nintendo at that point was, Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, and I think I might have had one other game. I can't remember what it was, to be honest with you. But yeah, so Legend of Zelda I was anticipating, and back then, there wasn't street dates, there wasn't video game stores even. The Nintendo was a toy. Video games at that point were still considered a novelty, like a toy that you would get at a toy store, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything special, it was a total novelty item. So there wasn't, stores that were themed for, there was no GameStops or video game sections in stores, you know what I mean? It was just in the frickin' toy aisle, essentially. I think Toys R Us was probably one of the first stores that actually started having a video game section, at least that I remember. So, I would say one of the first games, other than Zelda, because I think Zelda's probably kind of a generic answer. I think Zelda was the first game that came out that really kind of struck with people. Excluding, obviously Super Mario Brothers and Zelda were the first games that you really probably got into on the Nintendo. The first one that really kind of blew my mind after that was Mega Man. I remember I was sick and I stayed home from school, and I was living with my grandmother at the time, and she let me rent a video game essentially because I was sick, and I just, the cover, I don't know if you guys remember the cover from original Mega Man, but it wasn't too, it wasn't the cover that sold me on it. It was just kind of a whim. I played most of the other games there, I think, probably, and because there wasn't a whole lot of, you used to go to the video store and there would be this little teeny section where they had Nintendo games, and maybe there was 10, you know what I mean? Including the most basic ones, like Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt and whatnot. So it was probably something that I hadn't seen before, and Mega Man sounded pretty, badass or whatever, so I got that, and man, I did not know what I was in for. That game was amazing. It was totally, I guess I didn't really have too much of a preconceived notion, but holy crap, I was not expecting that. Great game, and I followed that franchise all the way through until they started getting into the crazy Japanese only ones and stuff like that. I kind of tuned out, but I played them later on. I think I got the collection on GameCube or something that has all the way up to 9 or 10 or something, and I played a lot of later ones, and they're really fun. It just lost that. There was something about 8-bit Mega Man that was just, the ones that they recently made, I think 9 and 10 for download only, at least on Xbox or whatever is what I downloaded them on. We're back to that 8-bit style, which was the heart and soul of Mega Man in my opinion. And that was one of my first big franchises that I was into. I got into Castlevania and all that stuff, but that was later. It took me a little while for Castlevania to kind of grow on me. Castlevania 2 was just freaking horrible, and I honestly didn't get my hands on a copy of the original one until way later. And after playing the second one, I couldn't get into it. There was something about it that I just did not like. It was, I don't want to say it was too hard. It just didn't have a real good flow to it. You know what I mean? Reminded me a lot of Legend of Zelda 2 Link 2. It had, I don't know if it was the side scroll action or whatever, but the way you entered the towns and stuff like that was really similar, and I was playing Link at that time, so this wasn't a big deal to me. When Castlevania 3 came out, though, there was a lot of hubbub about Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. And I actually got that for Christmas and loved it, and then went back and played the original Castlevania. I would say I became a Castlevania fan with Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, definitely. That still today is probably my favorite Castlevania, including the, probably everyone's favorite Symphony of the Night. I still prefer Dracula's Curse. I think it's my personal favorite. So favorite first arcade. When I first started playing video games, I can't really say that consoles weren't out, because they were. Like I said, my first video game memory was playing a 2600 of my uncle's as a real small kid. But I would say before I actually got consoles, which would have been in 85, 86, 87 era, I had a Master System and a NES during that time. Before that, I really was very intrigued by video games and played video games every chance I got, but they were all arcade form. I didn't know anyone that had consoles, you know what I mean? So I would say probably my first, I can tell you hands down the first arcade that I played that really kind of blew my mind. And I still get chills today when I hear that, opening music is Rostan. Rostan was amazing. It was, I found out later that it was a port of Rostan's Saga, is what it was called, I believe, in Japan. But they did stand-up arcades here in America. And, oh man, I will never forget the first time I played that damn game. It was at Shakey's Pizza in Port Angeles, which is long gone, but at the time you used to go in there and you could watch them make your pizza, and it was kind of set up in kind of a square formation, and they had a big screen TV in there, and everyone was watching football, and my dad used to go in there after work and drink beer and get pizza every now and then, and he'd always give me a bunch of quarters to play the arcades. And that particular time when I was playing Rostan, or when I saw it, I went up and put money in it, and it just blew my mind. Like, it was, you know, the graphics were amazing for the time. I mean, even today they hold up. I mean, the music was, you know, you hadn't heard anything like that. The creatures and the weapons, you know, flaming swords and dual razor blade maces, and the creatures were these crazy, like, you know, lions with dragon heads and shit coming out of their pack, and multi-armed Shivas coming after. It was just crazy, like the you know, swamp men and all this crap coming after you. It was Conan. I mean, it was a Conan game, and everyone in the 80s loved Conan. I mean, if you say you didn't love Conan, then what the fuck's the matter with you? Like, first of all, you're either an idiot or a liar. I mean, Conan was the shit in the 80s. And at least to a kid, you know what I mean? Like, growing up, I loved Conan, and Rostan was a amazing video game adaptation to, you know, based on that kind of fantasy, that kind of world. So it's right up my alley. And luckily for me, and pretty much the rest of America, the other Rostans, Rostan 2 and 3, I believe they made 3, maybe even 4 of them. The other ones never made it to America, at least in arcade form that I'm aware of. And that is a good thing, because they are horrible. I did not know until, you know, after, you know, probably late 90s, early 2000s, looking on the internet, I looked it up at one point, and holy crap. I still, to this day, I just looked at it the other day, and I was just like, why would they do that? Like, it's so, yeah, it's not the same thing, like, even close, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The music's totally fruity, and the character design's horrible. I mean, I just don't understand how someone could have such an amazing showing their first time out, and then just totally flush it down the toilet like that. But I remember playing a lot of Spy Hunter at the old Pizza Mia, just Spy Hunter for days. And everyone played Star Wars, you know, the old Star Wars game, arcade game. That arcade, I mean, I don't know how many of those were in town, but holy shit, they seemed to be at like every location. I mean, everyone thought it was a good idea to have one of those in their joint if they had arcades, which wasn't probably a bad idea, but so my first console was definitely Nintendo. You know, I had a Nintendo first. I got a Sega down the line, and it was broke out of the box. I got brand new. I got it for, I think, Christmas, maybe my birthday, I don't know. I got it. It was broken. We sent it back. I can't remember how long it took. It seemed like an eternity, but as a kid, everything seems like an eternity. But came back, and it worked for, I think, like a day or two, and broke again. Sent it back, got it, and when it came back the second time, I guess, from sending it in, it actually lasted quite a while. I think I had it like 6 months or so. I had the game it came with, I think, was like Super Hang-On and like Kid Adventure or Adventure Kid or something like that. And then I had Rambo, which was the one freaking game I wanted for it, which was Rambo. It was just like Commando for Nintendo, but with all the Rambo badassery, you know what I mean? Like the music and the, you know, all that crap. So, and it was amazing. It's worth owning a fucking Master System just for Rambo. So, if you're looking for some retro badassery, 8-bit style, Rambo, it is amazing. And I'll stand by that to this day. So, yeah. Those were probably my first two systems. I had them pretty close together. I definitely, that really soured my taste on Sega, and that you know, having those consoles just break on me, and you know, not a lot of people had Segas either, which was a big freaking factor in the 80s. I mean, those games were $60 back then, which I think today's inflation is probably like $200. You know what I mean? So it wasn't easy, you know, to get your hands on them. You could rent them and whatnot, but I mean, it was always, you know, you were always borrowing and trading games with your friends. You know, trying to see what was good, what wasn't. You know, you didn't go into a store and just willy-nilly buy games. You know what I mean? Like, you knew what it was. If you were actually going to fork down the 60 whatever dollars to freaking buy that damn game, you knew what it was. If you didn't, you were playing with fire for sure. I mean, and I got burned. I'm trying to remember what it was. I remember. I think it was Top Gun. I bought Top Gun for full price when I was a kid because the movie was huge, and I was a fan of the movie, you know, as a kid, and I just assumed, you know, I remember them showing there was a commercial for it, and I remember just, you know, thinking it was going to be this amazing thing, and it was just a pile of shit. Still considered today probably one of the worst, you know, video games as far as, you know, just being stupid difficult for no damn reason. Yeah, we can go on for days on that one. But I still have all my old original, obviously, and more. I buy them constantly. Someday I'll have them all. Probably there's, I think, about 750 licensed U.S. release titles or whatever. I don't care about all the weird, funky ones that people are selling for like 12 grand on eBay and shit. Those were never released anyways. Those aren't games anyone ever had. Those are just weird, stupid, funky ones. I just want the, you know, normal ones that were for sale. And every other one made. No, just kidding. Well, thanks for watching. If you got any more questions, put them up on Facebook, and I'll do another one. All right. See you guys later.